solution is designed for a large call center. It's designed for a call center where you will have nurses taking phone calls for doctors after hours. The software has a front page where the first person takes on the information about the patient, checks on the urgency of the call, and then that information is then passed on to the nurses via a web. It's all done electronically, and the nurses can then assess all the different patients' calls that are coming in and make a decision about which calls are more urgent and take the calls based on the urgency. The software allows nurses to work remotely. All the software can be done electronically. Nurse managers can also listen to phone calls remotely and train nurses remotely. All the information and all the calls that the nurses are taking are being documented and recorded so that nurse managers can go back and review those calls for training purposes or to assess any questions or issues that may arise after the call has taken place.
The health call center software is designed specifically for nurse triage. It allows the most efficient and reliable processing of calls all the way from the point where the patient calls the doctor's office to the intake, to the nurse taking the phone call, using standardized protocols by Dr. Barton Schmidt and David Thompson, and documenting everything that they're doing along the way and then reporting that to each individual physician office.
Some of the features that really stand out in the call center solution software our nurse notes can be seamlessly integrated with any electronic medical records. That information about the call can immediately be entered into the doctor's electronic medical records. So the doctor does not have to receive faxes about the interaction if the doctor doesn't want to. Of course, we can always send faxes, we can always communicate in alternative ways, but we have the ability to electronically enter the information. Another feature that I think is very important on the call center software is the ability for nurses to work remotely. The reason why this is so important is because it's very difficult to predict what kinds of calls you're going to get and when will the calls surge. And if all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and you get 10 calls in, our software allows you to then call in additional help from nurses that may be working remotely, but that can help take calls of those urgent calls immediately so that your call center is not running behind. The call center software is also able to allow additional nurses to get in the call immediately. If there is an emergency, if there's a surge of calls, nurses can then enter and start taking call immediately. This is very important also for emergency planning, because if there is all of a sudden an epidemic or an emergency, you can immediately add on more nurses taking calls and immediately increase the ability of care providers to help additional people on the call.